Alright YouTube, here's what we got going on today. This is a piece of maple that I have milled, a lot of bugs, sorry, that I have milled. It's 2.5 inches thick, it's dried, bark on. It is going to be a live edge shelf in a house, floating shelf, which means one side of it has to be cut square. So I'm going to show you how I cut some of my stuff so that it's square. This is pretty simple one. It's got to be 93 inches long, minimum of 12 inches wide, and it's got to be square on one end, live edge, hopefully with bark on the other. It's being picked up tomorrow. I only have one shot at this because I only have one piece of this wood. I got it up on horses, as you can see. I'm moving it over because there's screws holding these scabs down, and what those scabs are for is so that this wood doesn't get all dirtied up by touching my dirty old sawhorses. Trying to do as little damage as possible. Usually I'll put strips of brown paper bag underneath if I use a metal edge. I didn't do it on this one. I'm just going to sand it off. On the bottom of the clamps, the bottom side of this, as it is now, is going to be the upside of the shelf. There's a block of wood under here and underneath that little clamp to keep it from making any marks on the wood, because I haven't cut it square yet because I don't have a straight edge yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the straight edge first, get rid of that, and then I'm going to cut the end square. All I've done is there you go. This is the bottom of my circular saw. It's just a 7.5 inch circular saw. I measured from this edge to the side of the blade on the saw, and that is 1.5 inches. And I'm going to show you why I'm not using the larger side of the shoe in a second. Here is my 12-inch mark. I've measured 1.5 inches over, and this way my saw can run right on that edge, and that is my straight edge. Okay, the reason I didn't do it in the other direction is because my straight edge will hit my saw body, and I'm going to need every bit of depth I can. So I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Marked it at 12 inches, marked over for the width of my shoe. If it was using the other side of the shoe, of course, it would be a different measurement. In this particular case, with the DeWalt 7 1/4, it's at least this model, which I've had for a long time, it's 5.5 inches. And I prefer to run the larger piece of the shoe over, but that isn't going to happen with this. Now, I'm set at 90 degrees for my blade. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my depth. My max depth is 2.5. I'm going to set my depth at somewhere around 3/4 inch. And I'm going to do this in multiple passes. And the reason is because this is a lot of hardwood. 2.5 inches is a lot of hardwood to cut with a circular saw. Before I go any further, I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to check where the screws are. I would like this to be as stable as possible. So if I can have it so that this doesn't peel down, which is what I'm hoping. I didn't look. Yeah, we can do that if we go to the edge. Like that. What I'm worried about is hitting the screws that hold this to the sawhorses, but in way more than 1.5 inches. We'll check this side, and this side is in way more than 1.5 inches. So we're good. Move this out. Yeah. See, what I don't want happening is this getting thin from the multiple curves, and then this pulling and peeling off the other side because it's the face. So it is as simple as that. When I'm done with that, I'm going to mark with a square. I'll mark my 90 degrees, and I'll put a straight edge on. Whoop! cut that off, do it on the other side at my desired length, and she's done. Alright, because this is my last piece of maple, I am going to tentuple check my live edge, my straight edge, and make sure we're where we need to be. And my only issue is here. This dips, and I'm hoping I can keep my saw straight. I should probably check that. How this runs. Sketch in the middle, and I'm really unhappy about that. But I wish there was something I can do about that. Okay. There is no perfect solution for me for this. However, because I am cutting on the bottom side, and the reason I'm doing that is because my blade's going to be pulling up on the front edge of the cut, and I don't want to tear apart the other face. I've used 2 1-inch screws to go through holes in this to pull everything together. It is not the world's most perfect solution, but because this is the bottom side of the shelf and it'll never be seen, it's a solution that's going to work. The screw holes will be marginal and won't be seen, and they'll be relatively hidden. And that's that. It has pulled this together, and it gives me the opportunity to make my cut the way I need to make my cut. So, let's get back at it. Let me show you what that looks like real quick, and then we'll do what we got to do. There's a nut on it. Now the nut is to do 2 things. The hole is bigger than the screw, so it acts to keep the screw from just going through the hole. But what it also does is it shortens the depth of the screw into the wood. So that's taken care of. We'll get a nice angle for you, and I'm going to start the cuts. There we go. We'll set it to 3/4. We'll make our first cut. We'll set it to 1.5 inches. We'll make our next cut. And we'll just keep going on down the line. Okay. Now, every time you do this, you want to clean off your surface you're cutting of sawdust, and you don't want it to mud up your cut. Now I'm set for 1.5 inches, and away we go. Okay, we have an issue, and that is we hit a knot and we're straying. So this is not a good thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to get in here and we're going to okay, we seem to be having an issue in our kerf, which is really rugged right now. We're just going to keep resinking our saw. Oh no, we wandered. Our saw wandered, okay? It's okay, our saw wandered away. Oh no, it didn't. I thought our saw wandered. Okay, we're all right, we're all right. Okay, when you have a little problem like that, you don't sweat it. You go and you redo that cut to make sure it's clean and fitting how everything needs to. Okay, what gave me a hard time here was this knot. I wandered just a little bit. But it's the side against the wall and it's not the top of the cut. So what we're going to do here is we're only going to go another ½ inch. Okay, and that ½ inch ought to get us through the rest of that knot clean. All right. All right, we'll run that one more time. Okay, this is an important cut. This is like the most important of them. We want to be straight through here. Really glide that nicely. As a matter of fact, it's so important. We're only going to take a ½ inch out on this pass. Okay, now we're going to take our last 1/4 inch. And this should take us right through. Okay, we have one spot here I'm going to go over, because what we don't want is a peel in our lumber, and it's right here. Okay, this cut is straight can be. Notwithstanding the knot issue, we got a beautiful cut on it. Beautiful cut. It is slightly beveled like this. And that'll push the top tighter against the wall. I hope. We'll see. What we got to do is we got to get this stuff off and flip it over. We'll take a look. All right. Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, she's twisted. All right, this is a little bit simpler. All I did, now that I have this straight edge along the back, so I put a square on here. I can't move this, it's clamped on already, but I just put a square on here, drew a line, put a straight edge on that line, followed it through. So now I have a line that's square. Then I measured back 5.5 inches on this line so that this is now going to make a square cut. Let me double check this. That looks a little, now that's right in the middle. And that's right in the middle. Okay, that's perfect. Anyway, so again, I'm cutting from the bottom. I'm going to make multiple cuts and try not to burn. This is a cross cut. That's really what the blade I'm using is for, is cross cutting. So it should be a much nicer cut. I also have this set up so that I could use the 5-inch side of the shoe. Go get it. Good boy, Odie.